everybody, and really it's a pleasure, it's a privilege to be in front of you, to speak with you. My name is Mariangela Acquafredda, and I'm leading the decarbonization office globally at Schneider Electric. And today I'm going to share our vision with you, really on how to bridge the ambition, the gap between the ambition and the action to decarbonize our buildings and our facilities. So let's go. We are going to start from some market findings where we really know that the time is now. And why the time is now is because today all the companies are facing unprecedented pressures coming from climate targets, coming from all the financial constraints that they have, and also coming from the regulatory pressure, so the compliance. Let's start from the climate. So we know that buildings today account for 37% of the global emission, and to tackle the climate action and to be below 1.5 degree scenario, we need to act now and to decarbonize at a speed which is 20 times faster than today. Then if we go to the financial constraints, all the building owners that fail the decarbonization path, and if we just project that 90% of the existing building might fail it, they might have a discount on their asset value, which is 30% less. So they can become a stranded asset in the market. And then let's not forget the compliance. So the regulatory drivers are still there. They're affecting more and more companies today. And if we take the example of US and Europe, over 4 million commercial buildings, not residential buildings, today are going to meet these performance standards in terms of energy and carbon reduction by 2030. So that's a fact. The impact is huge, and these just are 3 of the main pressures that the companies need to face today. Now, let's break down into where emissions come from. So if we look at the life cycle carbon emissions, 70% of the carbon emission come from the operation of existing buildings, while 30% are generating during the stages of design and build. So that means that 30% is the embodied carbon, while 70% is the operational carbon, which is coming primarily from the consumption, and which is energy related, right? So there is no option today that we need to focus and prioritize the reduction of operational carbon while not increasing the embodied carbon emission. Since 50% of the buildings existing today will also exist in 2050, we have just 2 options. So we might new build, so we might construct and replace an existing building with a new build, or we might retrofit, right? If we think what is the best low carbon scenario here, without no discussion, retrofit is the one. Why? Because retrofit, you see here, if we take the scenario where we estimate the whole life carbon emission, embodied and operational, over the next 20 years, still retrofit is half in terms of carbon footprint compared to when you construct a new building and you want to replace an existing building with a new build. So retrofit should be our priorities. And you see here that if we think about retrofit, we must consider that we must accelerate both the rate of renovation and the depth of retrofit. Starting from the rate of renovation, we estimate that to meet climate targets, we must go much more than 2 times faster. That means tackling 20% of the building stock by 2030. That means that we must renovate more and more buildings in our portfolio. Talking about the depth of renovation, we must increase 3 times more. That means that shifting from light intervention, which should be the focus today, everywhere in each building, which is representing the low-hanging fruit, it's very low capital intensive, it's very short-term oriented, we must aim to decarbonize and to go to medium retrofit in the near term and to deep renovation in the mid-term. Now we have plugged in a waterfall where you can see how we are projecting the energy conservation measures to decarbonize a typical building. We have taken the baseline of an office-type building, and you can see here that majority of efforts today are in the light retrofit scenario, and the technology behind this scenario are to make visible the invisibles, are to measure, monitor, to automate, to equip our buildings of building performance optimization solution. So it's really technology first driven. And thanks to light retrofit scenario, we might achieve up to 45% of energy and carbon reduction, consider this baseline. But this is not enough, right? Because we need to move and integrate and add all the solutions behind the medium retrofit to get up to 85% of carbon reduction, considering this baseline. So this is really where we aim that the industry is going, and deep diving in the medium retrofit scenario, we should look and prioritize the grid interactivity strategies at building level, at site level. Why? Because thanks to these grid interactive strategies, we might aim at the biggest contribution of this overall net zero journey, which is up to 50% of carbon reduction. So it's very where we should aim everybody to reduce with these grid interactive strategies. Now, since we know that buildings are fully reliant on electricity, which is taken from the grid, it's true that there is no building decarbonization without grid decarbonization. So it's clear that buildings and grids are one interconnected system, and they must work together to achieve not just net zero, but to be perfectly in balance and to keep demand and supply in a perfect balance, and to make sure that on one day we need to act on the demand side. So buildings today, since they are part of the problem because they are increasing demand on the grid, they are creating more electrical loads, more grid connection points. They're increasing the peak demand during peak times coming from electrification, the EV, electrical vehicles, which are going to penetrate much more. Coming from heat pumps, which are going to go 5 times faster in terms of acceleration by 2050. Coming from air conditioning, which is going to be an additional driver of peak demand increase, especially during times of heat waves. And let's not forget, another peak demand is coming, even more importantly, from data, because more and more we consume more and more data. If we take just the last 2 years, we consume the 90% of the overall world data. That means that more computing capacity is needed at edge level, at building level. So all this peak demand is going to create a huge strain on the grid. So if we look on the supply side, how does the grid react to that? So the grid needs to quadruple its capacity by 2050 to face this increase of peak demand. And this is something that has to be green. So not just the capacity has to go up, but the decarbonization, the carbon intensity of each grid of each country should go down. So this new added capacity should come from renewable sources to get to net zero. So again, grids and buildings should be perfectly in balance. So we have talked about this future, we envision this net zero future, and to achieve that, buildings can be part of the solution. So can not just cause some problem to the grid, but can also become much more grid interactive. And there are 3 steps that we envision to become a grid interactive prosumer, moving away from a scenario where most of the buildings today are passive consumers. They are just withdrawing energy whenever they need it. They have no visibility, no automation. They don't make visible the invisible. They don't act. They don't adapt to the changing behavior of the building. So today, becoming grid interacting prosumer means that the buildings can adapt in real time, not just to the behavior of the building itself and not just based on the occupancy level that is changing over time, but also based on the real-time conditions of the grid. So this is really the true challenge that we have today, and the benefit that will bring is that these grid interactive buildings will not just consume less from the grid, being much more efficient, much more energy independent and self-producing, but thanks to the step number 3, which comes from, on top of all the technology that we mentioned before, energy storage, microgrid automation control as an additional layer of automation at edge level, they can consume even better from the grid. So this are some use cases which are driven by flexibility, and this will help the grid to enable much more loads flexibility. Now, when we consider all these grid interactive strategies, we should also know that the impact might vary depending on the geography, on the building type. Each geography can have unique grid tariffs. In a scenario where we have time of use tariffs, so we have variable energy prices, the good news is that grid interactive strategy can deliver also financial value. And this is a proven track record that we have collected across different use cases. We have just published a study here that you can download from our website, where the step number 3, the flexibility, can enable an additional 25% of extra financial benefit thanks to the reduction of energy bill in time of use tariffs condition. So on top of the efficiency, on top of the self-producing, where we already have financial benefits, we can add an extra layer of financial benefit thanks to the step number 3, which is where flexibility comes to play. Just to sum up, because I really wanted to make sure that we convey the right message. So the grid interactive buildings not only convey financial benefits, as we have seen it before, not only convey decarbonization benefits, making sure that they can prioritize the usage from the grid when it's clean, when there are renewables coming to play. It's not only delivering resilience, which is very important because it's making sure that the grid interactive buildings can add an extra backup power to the grid and can make sure that we can rely less on the grid when there is a power outage. But more and more important, the key benefit here is that grid interactive buildings are win-win because they can bring benefits of flexibility for all. For the building owner itself, for a prosumer, but also for the grid, for the utility operator, for the grid operator. So it's really a win-win game. I would like really to let our customers speak and speak about these benefits. And this is one of the 3 case studies that I am going to present you. This is a urban center in Finland, Lippulaiva. And the ambition of this urban center was to be open in 2022, so now it's up and running, and to become the first European energy-independent urban center. And they achieve it. They achieve it making the right investment. They achieve it going from step 1 to step 3, so becoming more efficient, more self-producing with solar. But they also added the flexibility step, thanks to storage, microgrid automation control, thanks to our EcoStruxure platform. And thanks to that, the clear outcome was that they got an ROI, so the financial benefit was there, estimated in just 5 years, and now it's the 3rd year of operation. They are still on track. They got 60% less energy than a typical building in Finland. So compared to existing urban center in Finland, it's really best in class. And in terms of decarbonization benefits, 335 kilotons of CO2 were avoided annually. So this is a true example where financial benefits are there, decarbonization benefits are there, flexibility is there, and also, of course, resilience, because they need also to make sure that they can be resilient also from any event, weather event, power outage. This is the second example. I want to showcase also the Montgomery country. This is a mobility example. They wanted to electrify all their fleet bus thanks to our technology, which were EV chargers, so electrical vehicles chargers of their e-bus. But this was just the first step. Then they wanted also to electrify, decarbonize their bus depot. And they want to make it, this bus depot, fully resilient, fully energy independent. So they also made sure that they had the storage, the grid, the microgrid control to be completely reliant in case of grid outages. Because when it's about a public service, you have to deliver 24, 36, 5 days, right? And also in this case, which is a nice one, also they deliver on the decarbonization outcomes, 155K ton of CO2. And of course, here the primary driver was the resilience, having an availability, a resilience which is almost close to 100% was really the key driver to make this investment. Now, the last one is a manufacturing facility. It's a pharmaceutical, it's a market leader, Takeda. This is in Singapore. So what was interesting here is that they don't just deliver on that promise to become net zero, but they deliver on their promise to become net positive. So they generated a surplus of 15% more than what they need. So they were producing 115% of their consumption, giving back to the grid the extra and making sure they can be, again, resilient, they can get financial benefit, also benefit, of course, from an energy cost optimization, be energy independent thanks to self-production, and of course, they achieve also some certification, especially in Singapore, the Green Mark Platinum was a key recognition in the market. So 3 examples where all these benefits come all together, thanks to these grid interactive strategies that they have implemented with EcoStruxure, with Schneider Electric. Now, I want just to make a short conclusion, saying that the future is now. We need to build it together, and we have a proven track record of delivering this value to our customers and our partners for over 1 million buildings. So let's work together, and I will be more than happy to be with you today also in the networking area, or now to capture any questions you might have. I want just to highlight the fact that we're going to go much more in deep dive during our workshop session at 11, so don't miss out this workshop. Come, even if you don't register, there's still space there, where we're going to discuss it, we're going to make more concrete examples, and we're going to build together your plan with your support. So come on the second floor. The room is Albert, so come to visit us, or feel free to ask me any question now or later on.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mariangela.
Yeah.
What a start to today's event. We've got a couple of minutes. We can take some questions in the room. If anybody wants to put their hand up, and then Charlie on the mic will get the microphone to you. What I want to check, Mariangela, is the big takeaway for me is that you Schneider offers different levels of retrofit. But light retrofit no longer fits the bill. I mean, you're suggesting that companies need to take the plunge, dive in with a whole medium level retrofit. Is that the case? And are companies ready to take that plunge?
That's more a question to the team here. For sure, what we see is that the majority of the efforts today are in the light retrofit scenario. So it will be very interesting to hear also from you if the medium retrofit strategy resonates with your strategy, with your action plan. Our vision is that light intervention are not enough. We have proven demonstration that if we need to meet climate targets, your decarbonization goals, but also on top of that, we have also the compliance, which is hitting a lot of our customers. Light retrofit will not be enough, will not enable you to go on the right track.
Charlie, there's a question in the middle of that row there.
Hello. Hello, I'm Maria Harrison from Ernst & Young. I'm really interested, that was a great presentation, but really interested in that last point on Takeda. Could you tell us a little bit more about the role that you played specifically? I think there's a platform exostructure. Could you expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, net zero journey is a complex one, and we all know that because I guess that most of us are in this sector and they have the hat of decarbonization, so it's part of our mission. By the way, what we pitch, we also apply in our own facilities, buildings, manufacturing sites, so it's something that we try to lead by example here. And the role that we might have as Schneider Electric is supporting you along this journey with EcoStructure, which is a technology, it's a platform. So it's a platform which help you, to digitize, automate your buildings, your facilities, and to make sure that they can, achieve the decarbonization goals. But also a big part a big role that we play is also in the services. And this is most of the cases the entry point. We might also help you with all our services, which is the consulting play. So making an energy audit, helping you to streamline your decarbonization roadmap, physically coming on site or digitally, because there are a lot of digital platforms that we might provide you to, with one click, to having access to your key data of your size, utility bills, also to understand your energy profile, your carbon footprint, and then to suggest you the best advisory service to achieve your goals. So it's a service and technology play, and then we contribute, to help also our ecosystem. So we work closely with our partners, all the facility management companies, the construction companies, the contractors, the panel builders, to make sure that they incorporate also our solution into their systems, so we can design a better system which is already low carbon from day one. So we help also in the design phase. So we have a lot of support of design engineers that can help you to streamline from day one and to advise you on the best step.
Mariangela, regardless of what your clock says, we're out of time. But I think was there one further question? Did I see a gentleman with his hand up over here? If we can have a short, sharp question and a short, sharp answer, that'd be a great way of wrapping up.
Sorry, it's difficult now. I'll ask the question if it may not be a long answer, so I'll try and do it succinctly, which I'm now not doing. But Alex Hyde of Venari Partners. I guess kind of sustainability impact of the examples that you provided is really impressive, but it feels like we're kind of moving into a time where it's really going to be about the financial value that is driven by the impact of your work. Is there any data that you can share around that in terms of either cost savings or value creation?
Yes. So in Schneider, we have a sustainability research institute, and I will be very short, don't worry.
You're fine.
And we do research. So we do research with customers, so we can prove it with our customer. We can prove it with our buildings. We have a net zero project also with our buildings. We can prove it with our suppliers. We have a net zero carbon project. We are top 1,000 suppliers around the world. And we can prove it with this research led by the sustainability research led by Schneider Electric. So happy to connect now or in the networking area to provide you, all the repository where you can find all of this.
Great, thank you for the questions. And as you said, you're running a workshop downstairs, floor 2. Our program said a 10:30 workshop, but you're going to be down there now anyway, aren't you?
11, I guess.
Okay. Well, look, if you got, it's such an important issue. If you have any questions at all, I know the Schneider team are going to be really pleased to help you out in the workshop on floor 2 downstairs imminently. And you'll be, of course, really pleased to field any further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Indeed.